This is the Informal Video Blog. In Part 3 of this vlog series, we will build upon the Expert Advisor code from Part 2. I call this part Placing Pending Orders. In this vlog, we will check for an open signal, place two pending orders, one of type Stop Buy and one of type Stop Sell, and finally draw lines on the chart to visualize the orders in reference to the candlesticks. Now let's take a look at the additions to the code. To show the additions to the code from version 2 to version 3, I will do a quick walkthrough summary using WinMerge. After this summary, I will go through the added code in more detail in MetaTrader. As I said, I am using the WinMerge application, which is open source under the GNU General Public License. The left side shows version 2 and the right side shows version 3. The differences are highlighted. Added code is shown by gray emptiness on the left side and highlighted yellow on the right side. We immediately see a new input variable and a constant. In the Ontic event, we add a section that determines if a position already exists. Check open signal is the open logic to determine the conditions when orders should be placed. Draw line is used to specify the trigger price and stop loss for each open order. Is pending buy signal and is pending sell signal define the entry for the strategy. These are the specific conditions for when either pending order is placed. Order stop places the stop buy and stop sell pending orders, and select position simply determines if a position is already open or not. I'm back in MetaTrader. We've added an input for the ATR factor, which I will describe soon. The constant trade volume sets a fixed lot size of 0.10 for the orders placed. I prefer to use a small fixed lot size when developing strategies. This allows me to better compare when a strategy is better or worse than another strategy. You don't want too many variables when testing strategies. Let's take a look at the code addition to the Ontic event. Here we determine if a position is already open. If it is open, we have a placeholder to manage a trailing stop. This will be covered in another video. If no position exists, we check for an open signal. Let's take a look at the code to determine if a position is open. Essentially, select position is a simple wrapper around the native MQL5 function position select, which determines if a position for a symbol exists. Our wrapper function adds another check. If a position for the given symbol exists, is it one of ours? By this is meant that an existing position may have been opened manually or by a different EA. Our EA is only concerned with positions opened by itself. This is where we use the magic number, which should be different for every EA that you write. Any well-written EA will have this no clobber functionality. Now let's take a look at check for open signal. This function checks for both a pending buy and pending sell signal each time it is called, which is every bar. If we get either signal, a stop order is placed. We then draw lines on the chart to indicate the trigger price and stop loss for the stop orders. Let's take a look at is pending buy signal to see the specific conditions where a buy stop is placed. This function defines the entry of the strategy. The first line determines if the current filled bar is a doji or not. If it is not a doji, the function returns. If it is a doji, we drop down and determine the trigger price and stop loss for the order. For this strategy, the trigger price is simply the high of the doji. For the stop loss, I start with the low of the doji, but then adjust it using the ATR times a scaling factor. Obviously, if the scaling factor is 0, the stop loss is simply the low of the doji. Remember that the ATR factor is an input parameter, which means I can vary it using the optimizer in the MT5 strategy tester. Also remember that an ATR factor should be somewhere 1 to 2 times, never greater than 3. Now let's look at order stop, which places the actual order. We pass in all the necessary parameters to place the order. For the purposes of this EA, it is assumed that there will be no take profit set, and pending orders are valid until they are closed. We can easily see that the function we have written is a simple wrapper to the buy stop and sell stop methods of the C-trade class. Note that this function is very primitive. For example, 1. It has no checks for invalid past arguments. 2. It does not ensure that the take profit and stop loss meet minimum broker server stops levels or freeze levels. And 3. There is no check for the amount of free margin. Also, we assume the default filling type, and the expiration is hard-coded to GTC, or good till cancel. So there is much room for improvement to this function. Also note that, at this time, we don't delete existing pending orders when an order is filled. Typically, I would want to do that. We'll see the ramifications of this when we run the strategy tester. Now I am back in MetaTrader 5. I wish to open the strategy tester by pressing Ctrl-R. I want to visualize, and I will use similar parameters that I used in the previous video. After pressing the Start button, we see that we get actual trades. If I scroll to the bottom of the History tab, I see that we are not profitable. This is actually to be expected for 2 reasons. 1. Our only exit at this point is a stop loss. And 2. When a pending order is filled, we don't delete the other pending order. We can see how this second issue is a problem by looking at the very first trade. Double-click to jump to this trade on the chart. We see the expected yellow arrow to show us a doji. So far, so good. We see our target prices shown by 2 dotted light blue lines, and our stop losses are depicted as 2 dotted brown lines. Excellent. On the very next candle, we see that the buy order is converted to a market order by the little blue arrow. Note that our EA did not draw this arrow. The blue and red arrows are drawn automatically on the charts by MT5. Then we see that prices go against us until the other pending order's trigger price is hit. We don't want this. So in the next video, we will look at fixing these 2 described issues. This concludes this vlog for Rapid Doji EA03. Stay tuned for Rapid Doji EA04, in which we will add trailing stop code and delete pending orders once an order is filled.